My name is Casper Johansen and I'm your YouTube philosopher. This video is about the question of refugees. There is right now a huge migration of refugees coming to seek asylum in Europe. The refugees are escaping from a situation of war, famine and genocide. Actually all these things combined. All this happens in countries like Syria and states in the region of North Africa. Now, should we help these refugees by giving them asylum and passage through Europe to countries that will grant them asylum? All this, of course, is a current issue and a political question of highest priority. But I'm a philosopher and I would like to look at the situation from a philosophical perspective. The matter then becomes a question of ethics. Ethics concerns itself with what we ought to do and what we ought not to do. So the question that begs us here is, are we morally obliged to help these refugees? The simple answer is yes. And now I will give you a few arguments why we are morally obliged to help and ease the suffering of the refugees. First, the argument from the philosopher Immanuel Kant and his famous categorical imperative. It goes like this: act only in according to the maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Now, roughly put it, do unto others what you would like to be done to you if you were in their particular place or situation. In that sense, if you and your family was in a high risk of dying because your country was ravaged by war, famine and genocide, would you not like a helping hand from the rest of the world if you escape that country? Now, to give these refugees a big no, there is no vacancies here, seems harsh. Would we really have this as an universal law? Imagine a universal law stating, do not help others in the event of war. In the event of war, you do not help others or ease their suffering. Would we really care for such a universal law? I think not, and neither would the great philosopher Immanuel Kant. My second argument is, do not base your moral decision on feelings like, say, fear and speculation. We ought to base our moral and political decision on rationality and from an unbiased state of mind. I would argue that many arguments on why one should not grant asylum or help the refugees is based on feelings and fear. Fear like they would take our jobs, or they are criminals and who would plunder and destroy our society. This is baseless speculation about future events that is purely something based on fear. This all leads me to ponder why a particular view is dominant about what a refugee is. There are many ways one can view what a refugee is. One way, which is unfortunately not that dominant, is that the refugee is actually a strong, free libertarian. Here in the Western society, we boast about our libertarian views that one is in charge of his or her own happiness. Well, a refugee takes matters into his or her own hands and fights to increase his or her own welfare. Why not applaud this? We do it when someone goes from rag to riches on his or her own record. Why not view the refugee like this? Things are never one-sided. Things are more complex. You cannot generalize over a whole group of people. It's like saying that every politician is corrupt. Existentialists, like the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, stated time and time again that you are not your job, you are not your religion, you are not your country. You are something more, according to existentialists. In this view, a refugee is not just a refugee, he or she is something more, a complex, many-sided personality. Another aspect of the whole refugee migration is borders. Remember, borders are artificial. It's something we created. A modern world is global and cosmopolitan. To be a cosmopolitan means a citizen of the world, and we are all citizens of this world. Science talks about ecosystems and animal migration. In nature, animals don't live in accordance with the borders. Animals go where the food are. Ecosystems have a symbiotic nature. They live in symbionts. That means life forms are actually living together in a mutually advantage. The life forms in an ecosystem affect each other. Man tends to forget that we are animals, and we, the human race, live together in a symbiotic relationship, and the refugee follows his instinct to flee from trouble and migrate to an area where there's a better chance of survival. Everybody would do the same. It's natural. We should help because we are not a closed ecosystem. We in the West boast about that we are civilized and have a heightened moral awareness in our society. Well, if that is true, then this is our time to show that great moral sense, if this is actually true. The great philosopher Aristotle said that a virtuous person is someone who does virtuous acts. Well, is spitting after the refugees, like someone did in my country, Denmark, today, is that a virtuous act? I, like Aristotle, would say, hell no. Remember that the biggest nation in the Western society, United States of America, was actually built up by colonists who were themselves immigrants and refugees. Yes, a lot of Irish and other people actually fled Europe because of religious persecution or another form of suppression. So we cannot, even from a historical perspective, blame the refugee for trying to better his or her situation. But let's try to keep an open mind and extend a helping hand, because we are morally obliged to do so. But of course, there is also what philosophers term ethical egoism, which stipulates that a moral agent ought to do what is in their own self-interest, because that's always the best solution, according to ethical egoism. Well, I would just like to say to them, good luck with that. Thank you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe to my channel for future videos.